Hi, welcome to Together, the podcast where we explore the terrain of sacred relationship. In today's episode, we're going to learn how to move from needy, reactive, and controlling behaviors in your relationship to sexually charged connection. We're going to do this by going on a journey through 3 key points: young parts and how they can destroy a relationship, how they show up. And we're going to give you practical information and examples to help you discern whether young parts are present in your relationship or not. And the third point is we're going to go into how to actually get to know your wise adult and bring them online so you can experience sexually charged connection. Thank you all for tuning in. I'm so looking forward to this topic because in our last episode, we were really going into depth around needs. And I really find, like, in the work that we've done with couples in our own relationship, if the needs don't have the wise adult online and they're being delivered from those young parts, it gets messy. And we both know intimately it does destroy relationships, and it destroyed our past relationships.
Yeah. Yeah, and I remember in my like early mid 20s being in my first marriage. I remember the longing, the deep soul longing and knowing that I wanted a relationship like I'm having now, where there's an aliveness, a sexual charge, like so much juiciness in our sexual expression in an ongoing way, like alive and supportive. And at that time, wanting it, longing for it, but having no idea how to get there, not experiencing that. And it wasn't my partner's fault. It was, where I was at in myself. And when I think of what is it that bridged me between there and here, it's this piece that we're talking about today. It was getting to know deeply my inner child, that it was even there, what those parts were, turning towards them, tending to them, learning how to actually be mature, how to be a healthy, wise adult. And now that's like the daily practice that is what allows this to be alive, essentially, like our sexual charge. And what I notice is when we reach shaky places, where in past relationships, for me, this is where the sexual charge would start to deplete. It's always us getting clear, oh, I've got a child part alive, and knowing how to personally, each of us in our own way, work with that and get ourselves back into healthy adult. That's always what shifts us back into the sexual charge.
Yeah, always.
And I can't even tell you how sexy it is when I watch you do that. And then there's this, oh, okay. Whew. And if you didn't know how to do that, if I didn't know how to do that, we would get off course for sure.
Yeah, well, we know that in the past we have gotten off course with our previous partners, and it's hard to get back online. And I feel that too. Like, whenever I feel your wise adult enter the room and then you scoop up the young part, but then bring the young part, it's so, like, it brings this relief in my chest, but it also just, like, I can feel it from my genitals. This, like, sexual charge activates, and I'm like, that is so sexy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I like how you describe that. The scooping. Yeah. Yeah. It's sexy when you watch your partner know how to tend to themselves and not put it on you, but still be in connection, still be vulnerable. But that's what draws me closer, when I can feel you've got yourself. And that place where, where you start to kind of, for me, when your inner child parts are really alive and they're wanting a lot, they're feeling needy, they're feeling like maybe controlling, they're wanting a lot from me, and they're angry, they're not getting it, or I notice my body starts to move away, and I start to have to kind of manage that. And there's a sadness inside. I go into a sadness, a grief. Oh, I want to be closer. I want to be intimate, but I actually can't move towards you in an intimate way when that's really alive, in that way where I'm just relating with an inner child. And as soon as you scoop up your inner child, as soon as you have that awareness, I feel the space open up, like I can be here now. Now there's actually a place for me to relate with you. And that has been a pain point for me. I wouldn't have known it in my first marriage that that's what was happening. But there was a grief. I was wanting to be closer. But it's interesting because at that time, when my inner children parts were alive and his inner child parts were alive, the only way to get closer was for our inner child parts to relate. But then it didn't feel enlivening. It felt like a prison that was getting tighter and tighter. It felt like and that was confusing. And we watch this with couples in our community. We watch like in our together community. We watch this with couples in our life where that's where they're trying to find the closeness and the sexual charge, but we can't find it there. And I remember that feeling of moving towards, but it's like, but that's not really who I'm looking to connect with, you know? And and in my first marriage, I started to do that work of getting to know my inner child. And I think maybe we should talk a little bit about what we're talking about here with the inner child. But I started to do the work. But what that looked like in that relationship when I didn't know about my inner child parts was I was, when those inner child parts were alive, I really expected him to caretake that, to manage that, to meet that need. I thought that's what it meant to have my needs met. And basically, it was overwhelming him. It was putting him into a place of total shutdown, feeling criticized, like not enough, because it was an impossible task. And for me, I thought I was doing the thing of being vulnerable, expressing my needs. But really, I was demanding and putting all of my shit on him. And it was completely impossible for him to meet that. And I felt sad, lonely, disconnected, dissatisfied, like alone, even though I was reaching out and sharing what was happening, but from a child part. And I think that is the key, and pretty soon we got really far apart, even though we were having all these, long, deep conversations of, well, I feel this and I feel that, but it wasn't actually building intimacy. It was making us further and further apart because those inner child parts were just dissatisfied, not being met. And of course I didn't know, and he didn't know, oh, I need to turn towards that part before you can meet me. I had no idea. And so it was actually, I was farther apart from myself and I was hurting him. And me and my first partner, we had to go through a big repair process around where, there's a place where it became like emotional abuse in the sense of demanding something from someone that's not actually their responsibility to give. And in that's where gaslighting happens, even if we love each other. That's where blame, shame, criticizing happens. Even if we're not doing it in an intense way, we're doing that. We're actually emotionally abusing because we're blaming another for what's our own responsibility.
Yeah, those behaviors that you're describing, like, oh, I know them so well.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, just like in the title of today's episode, it does, like, if there's young parts driving the bus, it leads to needy, reactive, controlling behaviors. And it's not generally conscious or intentional, but that's how it can show up. So if you're, tuning in, listening, like how we've really noticed it is, oh, if there's like an intensified level of need in the field and like wanting it to be a certain way, and that's where things can get messy. If the younger parts are taking up the space and they're the one driving the ship, if they're leading, like if it's not our wise adult holding it, it gets so messy. In my previous marriage, I really got to know the impact of how much this can destroy, because I would specifically. And then when I look back, I'm like, oh, it's embarrassing. And it's a part of evolution. So there's compassion, but also it's embarrassing that I would directly ask, like, I'd get to know the need and be like, I like this and I want it this way and I want that. And when I look back, it was so controlling. And the reason why this can destroy a relationship, and I'm curious to hear how this showed up in yours, but I found it destroyed the sexual charge. It destroyed that polarity, because what I was asking for was to be enabled. I was asking my partner, because this isn't fault to them. What I was really saying was, hey, come meet this young part and like make it feel okay, make it feel safe. And the more that happened, it would feel good in the moment. But then this young part would then spill and now be driving the bus. And what this looks like is, in my past relationship, it would be hyper aware of all the places it's being misattuned. So now, instead of this one ask or this one need, now it's like, well, now your facial expression and now this and now that.
I know this part in you. I'm sure in a very different way than her, but I can feel that. I know that the shadow of the shadow,
Yeah.
the little bits there. Yeah.
Yeah. And it would then almost hold the current reality as responsible for all the hurts from when I was a kid. And that's not attractive. That's not sexy. That's not empowering for me. Like when I look back, it's funny because my language would even be in that relationship. Like, is there something I'm not seeing? Like, give me a reflection. Like, is there something for me to work on? Because I could feel my energy just depleting. I felt weak. I felt my insecurities were
Yeah,
more,
that's it. That's it.
like my insecurities were more intense. I felt really like the range of emotions was bigger, and then just that was too overwhelming, so I would just start to numb out and shut down. I started smoking pot regularly, watching like Netflix specials over and over and movies, trying to get some sort of hit. And it was just like, oh, like my soul was just dying and so unsexy. It
Mhm.
started to spill in bitterness and resentment and stonewalling and withdrawing my energy. And that destroyed my relationship to the point where my partner just like walked out and I didn't even know it was coming. Those of you who have listened to earlier episodes, you know that part, but that's how bad it can get. If the young part isn't discovered, and if it isn't scooped up, and it isn't us, our wise adult, holding that, it destroys connection.
Yeah, and what'll happen is we'll keep demanding more and more and more. Right? Because if our partner does meet it, because at first it's likely our partner will be like, "Oh, okay, yeah, I'll meet that." It'll just get more and more and more. It won't heal it, it won't change it. It'll just be now those younger parts are going to demand more. And for any of you that know this experience, because it's a common thing I hear from people, and lots of people think that this is what relationship is. Even some really famous people we've connected with, they said that. Well, in relationship, it seems like it just starts to be more and more, um, I'm losing myself. Basically, that's what the experience of it is if our inner child parts are alive. In the relationship, you'll lose yourself more and more. And you will feel like more and more you have to let go of what's going to make you feel good. And it's because those inner child parts, it's not about now. So just to describe what is an inner child part, and this is the journey I went on. What started to help me was two things. One was doing somatic therapy work, right? And really getting to know my nervous system. And then the other was doing shamanic work, which was journeying into younger parts and getting to know, oh, where did this come from in me? And basically, this is when I started to map out, um, my nervous system and understanding, oh, basically, I have all these parts alive in my nervous system that I feel in relationship that are young parts that weren't met or were traumatized. They're frozen, they're stuck, old feelings, grief, anger, a loneliness that are from when I was a child that were never met, that were never dealt with, and they just get frozen in the nervous system. So then fast forward, we're in relationship and we now have, and this is a really key part, we our brain is really good at taking the sensations that are alive in our body and making them make sense. So many of us think that the narrative we have in our mind is the truth. Like, that's my memory, this is what's true. The reality is it's not. Our brain is really good at taking sensations. So if I'm with Mike and I have a sensation arise, like I'm angry, I don't like that, or, I'm afraid of that thing and you need to honor that, our brain will start to make a story of how it's about Mike. And it'll make a really good story and it'll seem really real. But you have to understand the majority of our patterns of what's arising in our body, especially when it's bigger sensations and emotions that keep arising, as opposed to just a moment where maybe I feel a little angry and then it's gone. But those ones where it's like, oh, I know that feeling. It arises, once a month, or, oh, I know that feeling. Like those things that are bigger, those are implicit memory in the body, not things we remember with our mind. It's implicit, which means it will arise in our body as we're going through life and we're going to feel it. But it's not about now. There's like a tiny bit about now, but it's mostly about the past. But if we have stuff arising from the past in this moment, but we are expecting our partner to fix and take care of that emotion that's not even about now, it's about the past, then now suddenly our relationship isn't alive in the moment. It's not a present relationship, which is where sexiness lives, is in the present moment. We now have a relationship that's actually trying to tend to something that isn't even here anymore. And that sets us up for a less and less alive relationship, basically. And I really experienced that in my first marriage, where the way we coped was, because what I noticed was those parts were getting bigger and bigger. I was becoming more and more unwell. I was smoking pot, eating cookies, like watching lots of TV. I had gained weight, and this was all right around the time we got married. And my partner is a beautiful person. We loved each other, and what ultimately the only way we were able to find health was if we spent lots of time apart and we only connected when we were resourced. Then it was okay. Then those parts stopped spilling. But guess what? That's not how you build sexual charge, and that's not how you build intimacy. We had less ruptures and less hurt, but we were so far away. We were basically living two separate lives. So we went from emotionally very messy and lots of spill, hurt, child parts alive to, okay, I'll stay over here, you stay over there. We'll relate, when we're in a good space, but we'll just live separate lives. And that's how we learned how to contain all of that. But that's not what I wanted. I wanted closeness. I wanted like sexual charge. I want to share my life. I want to get to know the other person, like what we're experiencing now, where it's a deepening. I want to be deeply known. I want to be deeply known, and I want to deeply know another's journey and feel them and learn about them.
Yeah, it's so enjoyable to get to be in that experience. Like when I think back of the ending of my last relationship, God, like so many similarities. We've talked about this so many times. We really loved our partners, but we didn't understand how many young parts were driving the bus and just spilling, and all the coping strategies were taking up the space. And I remember some of the first palpable experiences of getting to know that there were even young parts alive. Like I saw the symptoms and how it can destroy a relationship, but God, the beauty of connecting and differentiating from younger parts within me was incredible. And I remember one specific memory just keeps popping up, where I was working with one of my spiritual mentors, and we were in an online portal, and we could raise our hand and talk about it. And I was in a place where I was just feeling so victimized by just like my emotions and a part that I was processing around the relationship. And the person who was facilitating, my mentor, guided me into a visual like experience to go and like see my inner child. And it was kind of new for me to have anything like that at that time. And in this way, and then had me like go and see this like little Mike, and how old is he? And I was like, my brain came up with the information. I could see him. I'm like, oh, he's like 4. And then God, when I grabbed him and scooped him up, I just bawled my eyes out. My heart just blew open, and just grief just poured out of me. That energy that I was numbing out, like when you described in your experience, where I feel like we both had similar ways of managing it, was we would reach for the substance, we would reach for TV, drugs, pot, all these things, eating, to soothe the young parts. Like when I look back at it, I'm like, oh, those young parts, all those things, they're actually the young part reaching for connection. It's reaching for comfort. It's actually most desired in connection. But if it's not in the connection, then it's like, oh, I'll reach for the substance, I'll reach for the thing to try to feel comfort. And so having this experience of someone guiding me to it, God, how empowering it felt to just like have that experience, feel someone guide me into it, feeling their compassion and presence, the work that they had done to be in their mature adult to even guide me there. Oh my God. It felt so good. And then it really helped my mind understand, oh, the qualities of the young part. Oh, and then insights just would start to pour in. And I'd say this is one of the, I'd say where we nerd out a lot is when we're working, like a piece of material comes up in our relationship. And then we're like, oh God, there's, here's that needy, reactive, controlling behavior. Oh, I think a young part's coming up. Oh, I'm getting to know it. But then when we make contact with it, I'm like, oh, this is what it is. And, we both do our own processes around making contact with it and then bring it to each other. Hey, just so like just even last week when I had something just like, hey, just letting you know if you're feeling something in me tender, or if you feel me kind of pulling back a little bit, there's a young part that's coming up, and I'm trying to figure out what it needs. Oh, and then getting to bring that to each other and be like, oh, this is reminding me of this, and oh, it's just needing compassion and gentleness and things to go slow. But sweetie, that's not your job. I'm learning I need to bring these parts to it. And I'd love to hear from you, but I find whenever you do that in your process, or whenever I do that, I feel so empowered that I made contact with it, that I can use my words to tell you. Because my experience on this side is I watch you soften, I watch you open, I watch you lean in and want to like love me more. But if I don't like orient that way, if I don't scoop up the part and bring it and tell you I've got it can create like frustration and anger and a bit of aggression and like criticism on both sides.
Yeah, the boundary. Well, because there's a place where then I have to have a boundary. Like if you come towards me and you're just in your inner child part expressing it at me, right? So you come over and I'm upset with you about this and you're doing that and you're not meeting me in this way. I have to have a boundary then. I have to have because if I try to go in and do something about it from that place, it will be codependence. I could try to regulate the situation, like breathe. Hey, I'm noticing you're triggered. Why don't we sit down and breathe together? Like that's something I could offer. But in terms of actually meeting that part's needs, if I do it at that point, it will it'll feed so there's a part of me that goes into like because I'm trying to say, hey, no, that's not the way, right? And of course there's a journey to get better and better at that. Um, but the sacred order, for all of you listening, and it is, we have to tend to and become conscious of the inner child parts in ourself first before we can bring it to our partner. Our partner can be our ally in pointing out, hey, I think you might have a child part here. Or, oh, hey, this kind of seems like a young part. Hey, like a little girl, or hey, I notice you're triggered. Like you look really activated. Do you want to breathe together? We can help point it out. But really, until I get the hang of this is my inner child part and I get to know that part and I get clear what it's needing from me, then I can bring it to Mike and say, okay, I'm realizing I've got this inner child part and this is how it's coping and this is da da da. And could you help me support it? But if I'm not doing it from that place, if it's just spilling at Mike, I'm just letting the child part go bleh at him, there really, other than him regulating me, isn't anything he can do. And if he tries to fix it from that place, it will lead to more mess. It really has to be just helping me regulate so that I can get to a point of realizing what is happening for me.
And not enabling that part and giving it the message like, I'm going to fix that for you.
Yes.
Because this is where so many of us can have that nice guy, nice girl online. You know, we still work layers out, but in the beginning they were more prominent. And if we just listen to that message and we don't, like I notice for me, I have to even discern, oh, that's a young part. I'm going to like offer love and qualities to it, but I'm not going to go in there and give it everything that it needs, because then I'm actually, saying I'm going to enable this part and keep it alive, which is going to disempower you. That's not going to feel good. You're not going to feel sexy. I don't feel sexy when I have parts enabled. God, I had one last week and I was like, oh, I'm being enabled. Okay, now I have to bring in the boundary, like, please, like, orient, like, this is what is enabling for me. My request, please, I'm really needing to just find my way in this way. And you're not doing anything wrong, but I really need to bring myself into space. I really need to, pull this part back a little bit. I'm here and I love you, but in order to establish connection with this younger part, it's needing consistency, and I need to give it to that. That's not your job. So thank you for loving me, but I'm just gonna pull back in
Mhm.
this way. And so for those of you listening, just if you're listening, you're like, oh God, that's like overwhelming. That seems like a lot. One of the simplest ways to discern whether young parts are driving the bus is if there is emotionally charged expectation in the field. If there is an emotionally weighted expectation for you, sweetie Courtney, to meet me, young part, there's a young part online, and that's where things can get messy. So that's just an important one. I'm going to say it again. Like, if there's young parts online, it is like, you're not, I need you to. Like, that's just a really good indicator, young part.
Mhm.
Did you want to add any pieces to that?
Yeah. Yeah, generally, an emotion that is from present moment, because we can have things that happen to us that is like, and we can get emotionally charged and it's about right now. But then what will happen is the emotion will move through. We'll have clarity about what's needed. We'll be able to express it. We'll be able to reflect on it. We'll have our healthy adult online, which means we'll be able to work with it right away. But if it's an emotion that's coming up and it's stuck and it keeps cycling, or we're just flooded by the emotion and then we just stay in that. If it's something that's coming up regularly at our partner and not resolving, those kinds of things mean it's a young part. And it's amazing how often we watch, and we know this experience too, from our past relationships, but where couples come to us, and they're very convinced from their mind, no, this is something my partner is doing. And the thing is, it probably is that your partner's doing something, but the adult way of dealing with that would be problem solving, working it out with your partner from a loving place, getting creative. If we're enraged, mad, upset, defeated, all of these bigger feelings, then it's because there's inner child parts that are alive that don't know how to deal with what's happening. Because our adult self knows how to relate. Our inner child parts don't know what to do. It's too overwhelming. And so then we know, like, if any of those sticky patterns you're having in your relationship where you keep bumping into them and it's not resolving, that both of you have a child part alive.
Yeah, especially another piece to add to that is if there's inner dialogue of you being right and them being wrong, That's also an indicator of younger parts. And the way I usually describe this with clients is we don't want to be or have our partner be our mom or dad. We want, so like with Courtney, with you, I'll use this example. I don't want you to be my mom. I don't want you to offer overall the soothing and comfort so that I don't have to feel what comes up, but I want your mothering qualities. So I don't want you to be my mom, but I want the mothering qualities. And so it's my job to get to know my young part. As an example, I'll go and I'm like, oh God, there's something I'm just feeling here. I'm super tender and oh, I feel really like vulnerable. If I can't make contact with it, I'll go to my therapist or we'll go into process and get to, dive into it. I'm like, oh yeah, this is me when I was like a baby, or this is me when I was 7. I'll get to know what it's about. I'll go back to like, oh man, I'm really remembering like, yeah, like when my grandma, was the one who was my mother. And then I went to my new family when I was adopted. Like, that one comes up a lot. So I have to get to know that part. And I'm like, oh, here it is. Oh, it would be so helpful. And this is kind of what we talked about off the last episode in needs. I get to know what it like, oh, it would be so helpful to just be held while I cry. So it's me scooping up that young part and feeling what it was missing and needing more of. And then I can go to you. I'm like, sweetie, tonight, could you just hold me while I cry? Because then it's me scooping that part up and leading to you and then asking for the beautiful mothering qualities that you have. Because God, I don't know about you, but that's why it can be so easy to have younger parts spill is you chose a partner, you attracted someone who has amazing qualities that can meet these places. But we need to have that wise adult online and receive it from that place.
Hmm. I love your, yeah, beautiful description. Well, and for me, just to describe the map of the journey of what it looked like as I was learning to hold these young parts was for many years, it was just tracking and getting to know my nervous system and noticing anytime I have something that's repeating, like it's patterning over and over, it's cycling, or anywhere where I don't know what to do in the relational field, or I feel overwhelmed, I get really activated. It was tracking for those places, then having ways and practices and rituals of how I would then go tend to that. So journaling, being in nature was a big one for me, doing ceremony and ritual on my own, like, sitting around a fire, connecting with the moon, going out in the forest, journaling. I used to draw and write poetry, and um, these were ways then I would commit to getting to know that place. Like, what is this place that whenever, I'm with someone and they're anxious, I become anxious? What is that place? What's happening for me? It used to be, God, I hate being around so and so because they're just so anxious. And then I have to feel anxious, But now it wasn't that. It was, oh, interesting. Whenever I'm around someone who's anxious, I become anxious. What's happening? Turning towards that, getting to know the sensation in my body. Whoa, this happens a lot actually. Everywhere whoa, my nervous system's joining other people. And then getting to know, oh, there's a little girl in there who um never learned how to feel, like, who, her mom was anxious and her dad was anxious, and she really got the message that actually love meant that I had to feel the same as the people around me. Oh, and I'm scared, actually. That part's scared. Oh no, you're anxious? I'm scared. Oh, I need to come in as the healthy adult and start to be the one that says, hey, everything's actually okay. Oh yeah, your friend is anxious. Aw, that's okay. We can still be okay, and really building the muscle of how to mother myself, really building the muscle of how to listen to that inner part and acknowledge and love and care for them while at the same time embodying the mother. And, I had one of these the other night where Mike and I had a rupture and we weren't able to offer what each other was needing. And it was because child parts were alive. And then it was like, laying in bed, going inside, and my inner mother was like, hey, everyone, inside, I'm here. And let's figure out what's going on. Okay, what's going on here? Like going up to the inner 2-year-old of Courtney. Oh, okay, you're convinced that if Mike can't offer you what you need, then you're doomed. Yeah, that would feel scary. And then it was like my inner mother coming in and saying, that's not true. You know, Mike might not be able to offer you what you're needing, and we can figure out how to meet that need. I called in my guides and my allies. I connected in with the mountain. I went in and I sang to that 2-year-old and said, I'm here. I've got you. I'm not going anywhere. You're okay. It's actually okay to be okay, even if in your relationship right now it doesn't feel okay. Like, these are the kinds of things, right? And the more we practice, the quicker we will get at discerning not only what the part is, but also what the part needs, and we can offer it quicker. So it was practicing that. And then the other part of the practice has been learning how to articulate it to other people, and particularly my partner. So that then once I get the hang of what this part is, saying, hey, I've got this part. And, this is what happens. This is what comes up in me. And then this is how I cope, and I'm aware of it. And so, this is how I'm working with it. And, I'm realizing it would be really helpful if you could offer reassurance. Maybe you can't meet me in it right now, but anyway, you can just let me know, hey, I love you and I'm still here. That'll help that part calm so I can tend to it. And this is where then Mike gets to know me better. He gets to understand my inner world, which is really a juicy place of intimacy, right? I love when I get to know you deeper. I'm like, oh, that's what's happening for you. I love that. Very different from if it's coming at me versus you sharing deeper. I'm like, oh, I love getting to know you. It brings me in closer. And then also it's like permission to Mike that he doesn't have to fix it. And then his body's going to go, oh, and I watch this, hey, when we're working with clients, when their partner can articulate, oh, I'm realizing this is this part, their partner's body always relaxes because suddenly they're not the one on the hot seat who is having daggers thrown at them. Suddenly they're an ally now. They just went from being the accused to the ally. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so important. And just really highlighting for all of you listening, this gets to be part of the journey to discover how to make contact with the wise adult. Because when I look at even last week when that young part came online, my process is, I go to the gym, I move my body, I do breath work, I connect with my guides, I ask, for clarity, like give me some sort of insight, show me what's happening here. Sometimes I'll put on a song to invoke a feeling, I'll have a good cry, I'll move the energy, and then almost every time an insight drops in. I'm like, oh, this is about this. Okay. And then I will go into, it's either journaling, it's either just going through it, like, yeah, what about now is reminding me of back then when I see a memory. Like, oh, what's the behavior that makes me feel more weak and vulnerable and scared? Oh, that. And I like you said, I'll gain all that information and then I'll go communicate it. Hey, like, cause a lot of my places that are super codependent, like a lot of the healing is like, I just need you to love me in the place where I need a bit of space and like pull this part back and like really like just hold it long enough where it feels that the younger part can trust me. And when it does, then I can kind of lean forward and be like, hey, this is that part. You want to come hold it with me? And I love doing that with you. I love that we get to do that for each other, offering over the mothering and fathering qualities while we've got it. And I find that's sexually charging, is just to be able to have that experience.
It's the right order.
Yeah, it's right
Right
order.
order. Yeah.
Yeah. And other ways for me is I go to men's circle every Wednesday. I have another men's circle that's full moon. I've hired men's coaches and therapists specifically to experience reparations in my relationship to my father. And, And then I've hired women specifically that have qualities that match what I wanted from my mother. And that's me being the parent. It's me attuning, oh, that part really needs to feel this from a woman, from a man. Move towards it, receive it. And then that part gets to have the big, when you think of a child and have that big meltdown and have the big, and then be scooped up and loved and then encouraged to go back out. And then I find when I have that, I'm like, oh, I feel so empowered when I know what that part needs and I know how to tell people. I know how to me do the thing. Like I'm going to go and have an incredible workout, move all this energy. And now I'm going to structure my day because this part really needs um, a container that's holding, like, where are we going? And so the thing that I've loved about us being in this process is, God, when I feel you come back with like more maturity in your nervous system, when I feel like I've gained to that place, like I come back from men's circle almost always, like my sexual energy is so charged. Like I've got the part, I like feel clear in what it needs.
I think it's important too, just that we name just a little, is when Mike goes to men's circle, because there's different kinds of men's circle. In his men's circle, they specifically go in and work with child parts. It's
Yeah.
not as like some men's circles, you're just speaking and sharing about your life. Mike is going to men's circle where the intention is to go into these parts and support each other to work with it.
Yeah, and if someone's listening, the structure of it's a global organization. It's the Mankind Project, which, you know, in one of my previous episodes, I went into depth on the initiated man. And what I'd say happens in the men's circle that I go to is there's a lot of initiation that happens. There's a lot of doing deep inner child work that allows me to have these, like the wise adult, come online more. And God, when I come home with that wise adult, when I feel you come back from a session, from your women's circle, from you just deeply journeying inside of yourself, I notice like when we enter into the space together, immediately I'm like, I want to ravage you. Like, I just want to, like, oh, I want to take this new felt sense of maturity. And it just like, I want to be with you. I want to, yeah.
Um, yeah, and yeah, yeah, yeah. Every time you come back from men's circle, I feel you come in with a new sense of self-responsibility. I feel you come in with a new sense of devotion to our family and our relationship. And there's this enlivened sexual charge because you're going in and working with it. Um, what I want to orient us to is, what do we mean by being in your healthy adult? So, because it often is surprising how, I work with people that have done lots of work. And yet, often, there isn't a clear felt sense of inside, a feeling inside of what the healthy adult is versus the inner child, because we have an idea of who our healthy adult is. But we have to do the work of going in and getting to know the healthy adult from the inside. Like, how do they feel in our body? How do they walk in our body? How do they speak in our body? And it's always the part that is able to have the more mature picture. And it's always the part that is able to take in the needs of the whole, including other people, versus just our own needs. So, but it includes our own needs. It's always going to include our own needs. And so what I really encourage you to do is actually start to track inside. When I'm in my healthy adult, how do I feel? Does that live in a certain part of my body? For me, there's certain parts of my body, like my shoulders, my back. There's a place in the center of my chest, my legs. There's certain parts of my body, my hips, but if I go into my womb space, where I can find that healthy adult more when I'm triggered and can access her. I also feel it in my vertical axis, like along my spine. And it's actually practicing, because so much in the healing world is actually focused on going into the young parts and upheavaling these parts and going into the shadow. But what can happen in that is we can actually get lost in that, and we've lost track of the healthy adult. So it also is important to build tone of practicing. Can I notice the healthy adult every day throughout the day in all these different moments? And building the tone, the strength, the muscle tone in our nervous system of keeping that healthy adult online, even if we have younger parts alive. And one of the things that I feel is what has built Mike and I's sexual charges. We have gotten really good at staying in our healthy adult most of the time, and then intentionally allowing space for our inner child, and then having little blippy moments of the inner child kind of spilling out. So if our healthy, wise adult is the one managing things most of the time, that is where we're going to be able to create more. That's where we're going to have sex, that is alive and juicy. That's when we can actually be alchemizing the inner child parts. And it requires a humbleness, because we have to realize that anytime we're coming at our partner, we're feeling not met, in these big ways, we have to take responsibility for the inner child part. And it doesn't mean that there might not be something that is happening with your partner that isn't helpful, but the healthy adult is going to see it and be able to really take in the fullness of the picture and make a mature decision about what's needed based on that. And I always find, my healthy adult is the one that can come in and say, okay, it's like, it sort of feels like you're in the sandbox and the healthy adult comes in and goes, okay, let's see what's going on here. Okay, what's needed, and based on what's actually here, not what we wish was here, not how we'd like it to be different, but based on what's actually here. And I notice for me, every time I remember the moment I knew I wanted to be with Mike, and it was so sexy, was watching him again and again be able to be aware of his inner child part, naming how he works with it, but noticing how his healthy adult was so online. And every time he pierces through that place where I've like of immaturity and just shows up in maturity, it's like I want him more. I want him deeper. I want to open to him more, because I've also noticed my yoni, my womb space, my whole lower body opens to Mike more every time I watch him go through a process where he's got himself in that way. And he heals it. He moves through. He's like, don't caretake me. I open more. Versus the old pattern of me trying to caretake and be mother, and the other person leaning into that more. And now even though there's a false sense of closeness, my body does not want to have sex. It did not want to have sex. It didn't want to. It hurt to have sex. It felt awful to have sex, even though in my mind that didn't make sense, because but we're close. No, this is the way. And so for any of you that are also worried, like, well, I don't want to go into my inner child parts. I don't want to go into that a whole bunch, because then it won't be sexy. That's not true. And I've watched Mike a few times in a relationship be like, shit, now that there's this inner child part here, do you feel not attracted to me? And I'm always like, no, the opposite. Because you didn't become the child part. You owned it. And you're stepping even more into your healthy adult. That's fucking sexy. Because then I can trust you. I know you know how to work with your stuff. It's not a pretend. Don't worry, I don't have any younger parts. I've got no stuff. I've worked through all my stuff. I have secure attachment and I'm doing really well. That is like, ooh, what do you got going on under there that you are totally not noticing?
Yeah, I'm so glad you're speaking to that. I was on a podcast with Stephen Ocean yesterday, and we were talking about that piece in both of our journeys where it was kind of a mind trip when we went into the really tender, vulnerable place and just said what was going on in there. Like actually scooped up the young part and be like, hey, I have this part where I'm like, I feel terrified and scared and like that. Oh, and I need to have a big cry and I feel like you won't be attracted to me. And then, but then being like, oh, I'm so attracted to you right now. I'm like, what? What?
Yeah.
This is so confusing. And so just naming that for men listening,
And women.
and women, but going into these vulnerable parts in yourself, getting contact with them, and bringing them to your partner is what can create sexual charge. It creates polarity, in a way that I really love again, how to discern and whether the wise adult is online or not is whether you have the capacity to respond versus react. Younger parts are reactive. Wise adult parts can really see the big picture. Like when I'm in my wise adult, the way that I know it in my body is my chest feels open, my shoulders are back. I feel emotions like confidence, empowered, happy, joyful, pleasure, satisfaction. And I can witness in myself the parts that are back there. Like I can see where and what environment will invoke more of my like tender, vulnerable places. And then I notice I can also see like when we're relating, oh yeah, there's that part in Courtney. Oh, and then I can also see the like queen in her who's got herself. And like when I see you in all of your capabilities holding that younger part, when I can see that picture, I know I'm in wise adult. But if I'm sitting there being like, wow, Courtney, like you, whatever, yeah, young part. And then if I witness you like in that place of, well, you're not this and you're not that, I'm like, oh yeah, there's that little girl who's just like so seeing me as the part that can't and so pissed at me. And I can hold that. Like if I can witness that and respond to you when you're in those places, great. I'm in wise adult. Like if we can see that in each other, great. That's what we're talking about. Because that is exciting. Because then the energy falls. Like that reactive imprint just kind of dissolves. Like I've watched all these moments for both of us, or if you come in and you start owning and acknowledging and saying, this is what's happening for me, my nervous system's just like, and if I, or in another scenario, if you're in a young part and I'm just sitting there, I'm like, yeah, of course you feel that way. Oh yeah. Well, it's so easy to love you. You can feel that. And watching how then all of the things, the parts that are reactive just like go away. All those symptoms that so many couples, like you listening, your partner's needing is reactivity. If you can just be in your wise adult and hold space, all of those things will generally just blow apart. And
Hold space and have boundary.
yeah,
The
both.
double.
Yes, both are
Yeah.
needed. Thank you for naming that. Boundary and presence. And holding that adult space, being like, I'm here and I love you, but I'm not going to enable that place. I'm not going to engage there. Like that, there's so much power in that. And then that's like, ooh, that part kind of goes away. And then the adults come online and, oh, that's so sexy.
And so generally what's happening for couples is that they are trying to either fight about these places where their inner child parts are smashing up against each other. So it's a place where they keep having fights that are creating more and more hurt or more distance, even though there's lots of love. Or what's happening is they're trying to caretake it and fix it, but nothing changes. It just keeps happening, keeps happening, keeps happening. And then there can be a feeling of despair or discouragement, frustration, exhaustion, instead of enlivening, sexy creativity. And but what happens is after they become aware of their child parts and they start to turn towards them in themselves and then teach each other about these parts, what happens is now they can move through the patterns, they can heal them, they can find the new way, and there's more and more enjoyment, creativity, life energy, sexy energy. And we actually had a couple that we worked with for 6 months in a container, a 2-on-2 container, and we watched them go through this process. Yeah, beautiful couple, deeply in love, very conscious, done tons of work. And they just kept hitting these places, these patterns. And it was so frustrating, and they were, even though they were aware, why am I being so mean to my partner? Why am I doing that? And the other one, why am I running away and not wanting to deal with this? They still were in the place of, well, it's because he does this and it's because she does that. And when we went in and did the work to help them recognize the inner part that was alive while their partner watched and supported, So we helped them go in and, oh, this is what's actually happening. It's from this. And, oh, this is my inner part. Oh, this is mine, while their partner was there supporting. And they started to go away and get to know that part better, know how to work with it in themselves. Well, guess what happened? They started to hit those moments where normally they'd rupture, and instead they were able to stay connected. They were able to move through together, and it became more and more. They were coming to session wanting to talk about sex and sexiness. They ended up, going into erotic retreat where they wanted to dive in, and the energy in them was no longer was it this stuck despair. Oh no, is this doomed because this isn't fixing? Into, whoa, we're growing, we're evolving, we're healing, we're deepening, we're finding our way back to love more. And all of that was from them discovering these inner parts that were screaming to be loved, basically, and for them to take self responsibility for. And it was so beautiful to watch them go on that journey.
Yeah. Yeah, it was so beautiful. And that's what's possible in this, like really getting to know these places, getting to know and differentiate from the younger parts, bringing the wise adult online, getting to know how to feel that in yourself and your partner, be allies and holding each other accountable to break the patterning of codependence. It's so invigorating. Like we went from past relationships ending in divorce to us having some of those younger parts online in the beginning to this place where we get to have our temple nights 3 days a week, where it's specifically bringing like all of this juice from having wise adult online. And
The temple night is where we do practices and we make love intentionally, and tantric practice, deepening. And I'd say our sexual charge is alive in our creativity. It's alive in how we play, you know.
yeah, and I find all these moments in between. It's like just how it lives in my body is every time I move into a new level of my wise adult, I just have sexual energy online. I feel charged. It's like when I pass you in the kitchen, I just want my hands on you. I notice I want to pleasure you. Like there's just this like, oh, I want to take this and explore deeper together. I want to show you more of me, more of my power, and I want to feel you open and soften and show you that I can attune to what that requires to do that.
Yeah, and I want to authentically embody. It's like this authentic, I want to bring you pleasure. I want to embody the sexy siren, and seduce you. I want to open and receive not only from you, but from life more. There's more of a receiving energy I notice in me, because I trust you to not use that to meet your inner child needs. And I trust that my inner child isn't going to take over and wreck things. It's like I can trust, I can lean into our healthy, wise adults, and it allows me to open, allows me to open. And so we really want to plant the seed with all of you that like when I was in that previous marriage, I knew in my soul that a relationship like this was possible, but also on another level, I also doubted it because I wasn't seeing it. And so we just want to say, like, this is totally livable. It's totally doable. It's something that, we are living in our day-to-day life as in our fifth year together as parents of a toddler. And we are living the felt sense of chemistry, sexuality alive, because we know how to embody our healthy adults and we know how to take responsibility for our inner child. And that's what helps us steer this relational ship together.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I love it. It makes my heart's like, yes, I did it. I get to be. Last night I had a dream, and in the dream I had this realization. I don't know if any of you know The Notebook, but the movie The Notebook. And in this dream, I was at this place. There was all these people talking about, oh, The Notebook. And it's so funny, like, that I even thought of this. And people were like, well, I wish I had a relationship like that. And we're talking about, oh, well, I do and I don't, and da da da. And then in the dream, I was like, oh, I have that. I have that. And that deep satisfaction, that deep, like, this isn't made up, it's real. And I'm living it. And I'm really grateful to you, Mike, for doing your inner work so that this can be. I'm
Mm-hmm.
grateful to my past self for devoting so deeply to it. That took a lot of trust.
Yeah. Thank you. I'm so grateful to all the layers of work that you've done on yourself to bring the woman online and, create the capacity to be vulnerable and open so deeply to let me see the tender parts and the young parts and be there with them. It's like such an honor and a privilege to be there with you as you hold them. And I'm grateful to all of the people that have held us in our relationship, our mentors, our therapists. I'm grateful to all my coaches, guides, the people that have helped me learn how to parent myself. Like, I'm so grateful. My men's circles, like all of it, the books I've read that teach all these layers, to all of you for being here, witnessing. And yeah, so grateful. I'm really grateful to you to be able to deepen in this journey of sacred relationship together. Yeah. And if you are listening and you feel that you struggle with any parts of this or it's overwhelming, we have an online community where, you can work with Courtney and I directly. We go into teachings on so many of these layers to help you go from that place where it's just like, oh, something's going on, or reactive, needy, controlling, that's there,
Disconnected.
disconnected, to this place where you can actually have and live and sustain sexually charged connection. So if you scroll down in the show notes, there's a link to our community there. And you can hop in. And if you got any value out of this that, you feel can really help your relationship, I would love if you gave this a 5-star rating. Yeah. Thank you so much for tuning in, and till next time. If you've been listening to this episode and you're thinking to yourself, oh my God, I really need the support around some of these pieces, we have just the thing for you. The Together community, Courtney and I have created a space where you get direct support from us. The beginning of almost every call, which are every 2 weeks, we go into a teaching, and then we go into practices for you and your partner. And then there's an opportunity for Q&A and direct support. This has been a game changer. We are watching couples right in front of our eyes go from disconnected, pulling away from each other, not being able to make eye contact, to deeply bonding, laughing, caressing each other, kissing, and getting to really understand each other deeper, watching patterns just dissolve right in front of our eyes. If that's something that you're really wanting, oh my God, it's our lowest entry offer. It's only $155 a month. You can leave anytime you want. So you could even just go in there for 1 month, try it out. And if you don't get that and more in value, you can just opt out. So if you are interested in joining, I just want you to scroll down into the show notes, click that link, and hop in. And you're going to be taken to a landing page that'll give you even more information. And we hope to see you on the inside.